you ain't growing. Like, you don't have to want to grow. It's no problem
Right.
if you don't. But if your goal is to grow your business, whether you want to be local, you just want to have a couple stores locally, or you want to be regional, you want to go national, you want to franchise it, whatever you want to do, you're going to need other people.
Today we're going to talk about small business blues. Why most small businesses stay small. What would you think the primary reason for people saying businesses staying small is?
There's probably a million reasons why.
If you had to pick one, what would it be?
No, it's not one. If I had to say, I would start with a list, but if I had to have a short list, I'd start with people's mindset. I'll start with that.
Go in deep. You know the clouds and the dirt. So what is it about people's mindsets that keep their businesses small?
One, I think people get into it for the wrong reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm willing to bet. Well, let's back up a little bit. First, this is extremely hard. And I'm willing to bet, and I'm sure there's data, and I probably need to go do the research before I start spewing off and ranting here. But it, I ain't doing it. So I'm just going to tell you.
So just FYI, if you haven't noticed, today is going to be one of those spicy episodes where we bleep out a lot, but
well, the podcast,
we're going to
on YouTube. It says this channel is explicit, and so it does on the
we're
Apple
gonna
Podcast
explicitly
and everywhere else
tell
too. There is an E.
Why a lot of businesses stay small. Okay, so you're saying people think that it's
not even people think it's easy. I don't even want to get into that whole mindset.
Okay.
This is hard, and I'm willing to bet, and I'm sure. Like, I'm not even betting. I'm sure, because I hear this constantly. People are in positions where they're working somewhere and they're not happy, right? And they paint a picture for themselves, or based on whatever other conversations they have in and out the workplace. They're like, I'm smarter than that person who's their boss or manager. But we're gonna just say,
I've heard that one before.
We're gonna just say the owner, right? Because we're talking about starting a business. So they have this. They get into this, like, I don't even want to say it's panic mode, but they go into like this state of, I'm smarter than them, or this guy's an idiot. I could run the company better than them. And let's be clear, there is some level of intelligence that's involved in starting a business, running a business, and growing a business. But let me be absolutely clear. There are several phases of having a business and starting a business. There's like an infancy stage when you're first starting doing this thing. And then I'm just going to use a child as an example. It goes to a toddler stage, and then it goes to like this teen stage, and then adult. And there's like plenty of books and stuff out there to talk about like when you're a person, I forget who book it is, and they talk about like you go from, I think it's in Rework. If you're familiar with Rework, 37 Signals, the people who make Basecamp, I suggest you get that and read it, along with a couple other books. And if you're not familiar, I'll drop them all either on my IG or put them on my website, right? They talk about how your business goes in these stages, and some of them talk about like the tribe, and then it goes to a village, and then it goes to a city. And as a business evolves through these different stages, there are a lot of things that you have to deal with as the leader or as the owner of the business, if we want to use that example from what we talked about earlier. So there becomes this mentality where I'm smarter than the person who owns the place. And let's be clear, you might be. But there's a hell of a lot of that goes on in running and growing a business besides being smart.
Facts.
And part of it is it's not all about book smart or knowledge smart. So you're doing a particular position,
Mm-hmm.
and let's use it this way. You're a technician. You're in this role where you're doing something that's technical and you're doing it. And then you look and be like, I could do this better than them, the person who owns your company, for whatever reason. And you probably can, because you were hired to specifically do that role because you have a great skill and you specialize in it. But being a technician is not the same skill that it takes to run the business. And it's not the same skill that it takes to grow the business. And I'm telling you straight up facts from the heart. Someone who's been working and owning a business and working in business and worked in other business for a while. is not the same. And for every time we have to push the needle to try and grow this business or any of our businesses, it's a challenge because I can't apply the same things that I did when I was at level 1 versus I'm at level 15, or the same things I did when I was a 1099, when I was an independent contractor, or when I was a school teacher, or when I was doing this. It's different. So whatever your main question was you asked me earlier, I have
what
no
would you
right
say
now.
is the number one
So-
reason
so
why
men-
small businesses stay small?
And I said mindset because there's a good portion, not even some, there's a good portion of people who get into the entrepreneurial game and they have this mindset of the technician because they look back at that day when they were like, I'm leaving this job because I could do it better than them. I could run it better. It's a different skill set and it's a different mentality. And let's be clear, people don't talk about it and it's not publicized a lot and don't read about it. There's a lot of people who own and run businesses who suffer from depression and mental health issues because they have to deal with a lot of across the board with every team member. So their team members' problems, fallbacks, or whatever you want to call them that happen at the workplace or happen in their personal lives end up coming back and becoming a burden of the entrepreneur. Not even a burden, becomes a responsibility of that entrepreneur because directly that person's personal situation or whatever else they got going on affects the business directly, and the entrepreneur has to deal with that.
Right.
So be very clear when we have this discussion about entrepreneurs and having a business and growing business. Mindset is very important because you got to deal with a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of people who are in business who are depressed, who have put it all on the line. And when stuff is going wrong, there are people in business who they don't talk about how many people in business have committed suicide over business and the stress that goes along with it. People have no clue to what goes on behind the curtain.
Let's bring it back just a little bit.
So mindset, that's it.
So I'm going to co-sign that mindset is definitely one of the top reasons why small businesses stay small. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to work with filmmaker and storyteller Reginald Hudlin. So folks our age might know him
fancy.
from school days, from House Party, but he's also been instrumental in the Black Panther series and a bunch of other great film work that depicts African-American culture and lifestyle. So check him out, Reggie Hudlin. And he was recently in discussion with one of the deans at Harvard School. And when he talked about his career and talked about social equity, one of the things he said is to dream bigger, right? Because he knew that his classmates at Harvard may have different opportunities, bigger, better opportunities than what he saw for himself. But until he could dream bigger, some of the things that he's brought to the screen might not have come to life. So mindset is definitely something that keeps us small. And I would add, it's all about who you surround yourself with as well. We were talking to our friend Paula from the Water Lady. Why are you laughing?
Just go ahead. I'm not laughing. I didn't laugh. You laughed, but go ahead.
Because you made a face.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I was talking with Paula over the weekend as she's preparing to move her business forward. So we're really excited with what they're doing with the Youth Saving Society and their water business. And she said, I thought about something that you said to me, because people have been giving her a lot of advice about what she should do with her business. And she said, you asked me how many people I know own businesses. And I wasn't asking her as a knock on people who don't own businesses. It's just that sometimes the people who are loudest in the ears of the entrepreneurs are people who don't have business experience.
Well, yeah.
And so they
how are you going to tell me what to do? Not even tell me what to do. Like, not saying someone can't be like, someone can give you their opinion. And I think we've had this discussion and mentioned in other episodes. People can give you their opinion. But when you seek advice for someone, you're seeking advice to make a decision, to take action. So when I seek advice, that is different than seeking opinion. When I want advice about, hey, when I want advice to push a laundry business past $2 million in revenue, I'm gonna go talk to Mike. Why am I going to go talk to Mike? Because he did it. He took one location and pushed it past whatever, 1.5, 2 million in revenue. So when I go to him for advice, that's something he's done and he can speak to. Mm-hmm. If I go to my mom's and be like, hey, Mom, I think I want to push the soapbox past 5 million in revenue in the next 1.5 years. What do you think? If she hasn't done it, she's giving me her opinion, her thoughts on it, either what she's read, what she thinks, or what she observed. And I'm not saying that's not valid, but someone's opinion is different than someone giving you advice based on them actually walking down that road, actually getting their hands dirty and doing it. How is someone going to tell me the best way to fold a pair of pants to put in a bag, and their job is making burgers at their gourmet restaurant? Maybe they could give me some advice on, when we pack the bags here, we put the food this way so this doesn't happen, et cetera. So now I can say, hey, yeah, maybe I can apply part of that to what we do. Because the other mistake most of us do, and we're talking about mindset, is we look to the answers for our problems or solutions for things that we're trying to build or do in our business in the same place all of our competitors are doing it. Mm-hmm. Plus or minus, probably, 10%, give or take. Everybody in your industry is probably doing the same damn thing that you're doing because they're all looking either at each other or they're all looking in the same place. How about you change your mindset and look outside your industry? You know how many things I have learned or applied to the box or when we were doing self-service that I looked at other businesses and be like, why can't we do that in laundry? Or why can't we do that in security? Like security, there is a big thing where guards get paid by the site they work at. And we are so like, that makes very little sense to us. And we're like, because the industry has done it for all these years, why do we have to do it? Mm-hmm. And we don't. Because it shouldn't be based on where you work. It should be based on the merits, the value, and what you provide when you come there. If you got the skills, you do X, Y, and Z, you should get paid on that. I don't care if the guard is at an office building or a construction site. What are you saying? What are we running?
We got a new deal.
There you go. Another email coming. That's 3, just while we're sitting here. So growing a business, right? What else were you going to say?
I would say in my book, and this is my little rant, typically I leave the rants to the chief, but for today, I got to rant. I think the biggest factor that keeps small businesses small is people. Don't miss me when I say that. It's people. I know here in the South Bronx, where our business is based, most of the small businesses are micro businesses. That is that they employ fewer than 4 people, largely mom and pops, right? And from talking to people who have smaller businesses, right? Because the definition of a small business can vary if you're talking about SBA, U.S. Small Business
the
Administration
all
standards.
Over the place.
If you talk about,
I've heard some places say like
standards,
20 million or
some places they determine a small business based on the size,
the number
in terms of number of employees,
how much revenue, gross revenue you do. See, that's part of the problem, and that's part of mindset. People get caught up on labels. And you're running a business and you let people put labels on you. Who cares if you got, do you realize there are companies who have maybe 15 employees and are grossing tens of millions of dollars a year? And because they have such a small workforce, their expenses aren't that high. So their profits,
their margins are huge.
Right. Or even their margins might not be that huge, but because they have a smaller workforce and that workforce is able to focus and concentrate niche and produce this revenue with a small workforce, they're able to keep more of their profit because they're able to make more of a profit. And I'm not even talking about profit margin. I'm talking about what they have at the end of the year. That is profit, net profit, whatever. I'm talking about pure profit, not gross profit, all that other technical. When I say profit, I'm talking about what's left over after you pay everything else. And if you wanted to take it off the table, it ain't going to have no effect on your business.
Well, some small business owners that I talk to, they choose not to grow their businesses because they don't want to have to deal with the headache of having employees or having to manage people.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And I would say one of the biggest challenges that I've experienced in business is managing people, right? Because even though we provide a service, our service is our people. So if we don't get the people right, then we don't get the business right, which impacts our ability to charge, our ability to get new opportunities, our ability to build new relationships and leave a positive impact. And so I said, well, what is it about people? Oh, I don't want to have to pay workers' comp and disability insurance. Oh, I don't want to have to get a payroll service. But you're limiting yourself because there are only so many hours in the day. There's only so much you can do as the business owner. And if you're not willing to release things to people who are better suited to do those things, to have those responsibilities, you will be responsible for things that make no sense. And it ends up costing more money. Like if I am insistent upon, I have to do all the new hire letters. Like I personally need to write them. I need to print them. I need to sign them. I need to mail them. I need to take them to the post office. There's a cost.
You ain't growing.
To that. There's a cost to that, as opposed to learning how to delegate or outsourcing. If you read some of the books out there on business, they say the way to really get ahead is you focus on the thing that you're best at and then outsource everything else. So even if it means that you don't hire people, and be very careful about the definition of an employee versus the definition of an independent contractor, because I don't want you to get caught up with Department of Labor. But understand that you're going to have to depend on other people at some point.
You ain't growing. Like you don't have to want to grow. It's no problem if you don't. But if your goal is to grow your business, whether you want to be locally, you just want to have a couple stores locally, or you want to be regional, you want to go national, you want to franchise it, whatever you want to do, you're going to need other people. You can't do everything yourself. And that, when we talk about mindset, this part plays into it too, where as an entrepreneur, you become your own worst enemy. And I'm gonna tell you a fact here. And some of you are gonna be like, oh yeah, you're not gonna wanna take it in, or you're gonna be in denial. And if you deny it, I'm telling you right now, you're lying. And I'm looking at you through the screen. I'm telling you, you're lying. You're lying to yourself. You ain't lying to me. You're lying to yourself. And this is part of it. You have people working on your team, and things start to go a little sideways. And when it reaches a boiling point, you say to yourself or someone else on your team or a family member, whoever, you be like, you know what? Doesn't matter. I'll fire them, or they can leave or whatever, and I'll do it myself. That is bullshit. Because when you get into that mentality, the first thing let me tell you what you probably did to get to that point. You were doing this all by yourself, or you had maybe one or two people with you, probably by yourself. And you hired someone, and it was a good hire. And you're like, yes, that person started doing a little bit of this, and they were doing it well. And then you decided to let them do something else, or they did it, and then they did something else. Right. And I am guilty of this. And they did something else. And for a quick second, you took a deep breath and you relaxed. And in that quick second, you got lazy. And how you got lazy was you started letting that person who's a good team member, a good hire in that moment, do other things that they shouldn't have been doing, that you should have still been doing. But because they started doing it well, and then they ask you, oh, you know what? I need X, Y, and Z. And you're like, just go buy it, or just go do this. And they're like, oh, we need someone to watch the loading dock and help unload the trucks. Hire whoever you think. And you begin to do other stuff. And some of it is probably not stuff related to your business. You said, you know what? Wow, so-and-so is here that gives me 3 hours a day. Now I don't have to come open the store that early in the morning because they open it. That is the mistake. And then they make all these decisions, and the people around them are so used to interacting with them and not directly with you. And then when you do show up, people are like, who's that? And they're like, oh, that's the owner. And then you proceed to be like, why'd you do this way? Or why'd you do that way? Because you never really spent the time to onboard them, to train them, to indoctrinate them in what goes on in your business, the way they should service the customer. People think when you hire someone on your team, you get to spend less time and pull back. It's the opposite. When you hire someone, you have to put even more time in, because you have to nurture them. You have to train them. You have to make sure they understand the ways
And
that these things need to be
and
done.
as we've talked about in previous episodes, it's important to have systems and processes. So regardless of who you bring into the business, whether it's an employee, whether it's a contractor, whether it's a consultant or a subcontractor, they will understand how you do things within your organization,
you have
what
to
the
do it.
expected results are, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. So is it going to take some time, some due diligence on your part to outline the different systems and processes? And don't get me wrong, it's not easy, but it's better if you do it up front or sooner as opposed to having to do it later, because then you'll have everything already in place as if you make that choice that you want to grow.
Listen, I'm guilty of it, and I'm dealing with it on an ongoing basis. This is the best. If you have a small, mid-sized business, I don't care what size, and you want to grow your business, right? And we're going to say small and a medium-sized business. And when I say small, it's like you and a couple other team members, like, maybe 5 or 6. And when I say medium, it's like 15, maybe 20 employees. That we're going to just use that. I know small SBA and the city and all these other state and federal, they have different definitions, but I'm going to use that for right now, right? We're saying anywhere from 1 to, let's say, 20 team members working with you. If you want to grow your business, here's one of the key things you must do. You must stop and take a step back and look at your business as if you were going to franchise this. And if you were going to franchise it, you have to be able to hand documentation and things over to a franchisee so they could understand how to run this business in another location without you being there after you give them their initial training. And everyone who comes in, customer, client, etc., to that location as well as yours should have the same exact experience, no matter who is there at those businesses running it, and no matter what time of the day it is.
I am going to add one piece of why small businesses stay small. It's because some small business owners are content with having 100% of a little bit as opposed to having a smaller percentage of a lot.
16%.
So for
Richest
example,
man in the world.
You can team,
Bezos.
you can partner, you can joint venture, and then you don't have all of the liability, all of the responsibilities. You can work with other firms to accomplish work that you can't do independently or that you don't want to do independently. And I know you kind of roll your eyes every time I talk about this.
I don't roll my eyes, but go ahead.
That we have a couple of opportunities to work with some other firms in a teaming capacity. And if we get 2 contracts under this arrangement, we can potentially no longer be a small business. And so one of the things that we need to decide, or that we discuss, is whether or not it's better to trust these other organizations and pull back a little bit so that we can get those opportunities, or whether or not, nah, I'm good, and just focus on what we have and stay where we are.
Right. But you bring up me rolling my eyes.
Which he does all the time.
Point out the reason what I say. It's not about doing partnerships with people. Listen, how many partnerships do we do that go well?
Well, the first thing you always say is, I don't know that one.
Right. But this is the thing.
But you're never going to know.
No, because I'm talking about vetting people you do something with. Right. And on this level, we're talking about, this is on a grand scale. We're talking about multi-states. Right. And some people, what you need to be aware of, they want to do stuff with you because they're looking to ride on your coattail. It's different when someone is coming to the table. And we talked about it before, opinions and advice. Someone's coming to the table that has a proven track record doing this particular thing. And you have a proven track record doing this other particular thing. And you come together to say, together we will accomplish X. That's different than someone coming in and being like, yeah, we saw this opportunity and we're thinking because you have these certifications and we have this and you have that, we should go after this together. No, that's someone chasing the dollar, not going after the opportunity to say, this is something we know we can do. And we see, but we're weak in this area and you're strong in this area. So if we do it together, we can crush it. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that's not why you always roll your eyes. Because half the other time when you roll your eyes, you're like, "Oh my gosh, that means that people are going to be calling me in the middle of the night."
No, because
and you don't even talk through what
I
it looks
say
like.
people are going to be calling me in the light because they're talking about doing these joint ventures, and I'm very clear on understanding who's going to be responsible for what and who's going to do what in the beginning of these discussions, not later on. They want to talk all pie in the sky. Listen, we could get this contract is worth $150 million and blah, blah, blah. And we could split it up this way. Like, I don't give a about that. I want to know who's going to do what when shit blows up and the client needs to be taken care of. Because that's when people are going to be sitting around pointing fingers and be like, well, I thought Jane was supposed to do that. Or I thought Waleed's supposed to do that. Or Jessica's supposed to do that. Or Bob's supposed to do that. No. That needs to be defined from the beginning, what the expectations are. And that's the thing a lot of people don't do in the beginning when they have these discussions. Anybody can talk pie in the sky and put some proposals together and put some numbers together and then mail them off or email them off to the client because they put out a RFP or what's the other one when they want to do a request for inquiry? What's the other one called?
Request for information?
RFI is called request for information because they want to see how many people potentially would be interested in bidding on this or what data they can get back. Anybody can do that. That's not hard. We have the internet. This ain't the day of encyclopedias anymore. You can Google copy and paste and put stuff together and put together a hell of a deck for somebody. But the question is, can you perform what's in the deck? And people want to come together and be like, let's do this and you do this and do all this. And I'm not against teaming. I'm not against teaming agreements and JVs and partnerships. I'm against people not detailing the information in the beginning of that relationship for who's going to be responsible for what and who does what and who gets what money based on what they're doing. That's what I have a problem with.
Just keep in mind, Andy Rooney used to say, everyone wants to live on top of the mountain, but all the happiness and growth occurs while you're climbing it.
The process.
So not to say that you can't grow, just be realistic about growth for your small business. If you choose to stay small, cool in the game. If you want to get big, just make sure that your mindset is in order, that you have the right people around you, that you're listening to actionable advice and not to open opinions, and that you dialogue and document processes and systems that will help you be successful sooner than later. Keep in mind that there are 0.2 million small businesses in the United States, and they make up 99.9% of all U.S. businesses. And 70% of small businesses are owned and operated by just one person.
That's a big number.
So
70%.
if you want to go solo for dolo, that's good. But if you want to grow, it might take the help of others. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about what we did to grow and how we can provide you actionable advice on how you can grow. And if you want to stay small, send us a shout out and let us know. We could send you some, you can stay some small. Love back.
But listen, we talking about staying small. You can stay small team member wise, but that doesn't mean you have to stay small revenue wise. See, that's what mindset. In terminology and what you're doing. Just because you have 5 people working for you doesn't mean you can't make X millions of dollars or X hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like it's all about how you do it.